I'm the Reverend Mackenzie Wolf. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a pastor, and I'm a spiritual gangster. And today we're going to lay it all out on the table. We're going to get into a little faith talk, and we're going to be a little realistic about how our 20s and 30s are going. I don't know about you, but when I was in middle school and high school, I used to look forward to adulting with such longing. I remember telling my friends, our 20s will be the best years of our life. So we thought. Whatever we envisioned for ourselves, maybe we said, I'm gonna have an amazing career, I'll be married by this age, kids by this age, I'm gonna have a huge house, great car, I'm gonna have a huge group of friends to travel with and do adventurous things with. Whatever vision we had of our future, and specifically our 20s and early 30s, we probably find ourselves realizing that our real lives don't match up. I, for one, am still waiting for my Escalade. And real life is more like that scene from Friends where Rachel turns 30. Insert the clip here. You know, the one where she's like, well, if I want to have a kid when I'm 35, I don't have to get pregnant until I'm 34. That gives me 4 years. But wait a minute, I do want to be married for a year when I get pregnant, and oh wait, I don't have to get married till I'm 33. That's 3 whole years. Oh, wait a minute though, I need a year and a half to plan the wedding. She keeps going and doing the math until she realizes she's already behind on her self-imposed plan. We've probably all had those moments, questioning our personal lives, our careers, and having conflicting visions of who we are and who we thought we were meant to be. We're all left asking ourselves, what really matters to us, and where are we really going? The truth is, our generation has been robbed of meaning, and this is the number one thing that got me interested in the priesthood and speaking to other young people about Christianity. We've been left to our own devices to discover a sense of meaning, and we've been left to figure out for ourselves, who am I? What are the pieces that make me who I am? And what does my future look like? Maybe you've been sold the lie that the answers to all those questions are within yourself. If you just meditate on the right things, eat the right things, manifest the right things, well, if you try hard enough, do 75 hard, read the Let Them book, you'll find your true self and you'll be able to find direction by following your heart and seeking your truth. That sounds great, especially on TikTok, but there's one big problem with this. And there's this book that I love. It's this book, Unapologetic, by Francis Buford. And he calls this the human tendency to fuck things up. He has this amazing quote that I love. If we stop wasting our time on denial and really admit to ourselves that we have the human tendency to screw things up, he says it'll help us to stop ricocheting between unrealistic self-praise and unrealistic self-blame. What Francis Buford is saying is that if we keep leaning on ourselves, we eventually realize we aren't so great after all. We do tend to royally screw up our lives, don't we? That's because humans are emotional, irrational, fickle, and so many other things. And even if we manage not to royally mess things up on our own, relying on ourselves leaves us perpetually in the searching phase. We leave ourselves open to the changing of the winds by constantly adapting our sense of identity to passing fads, ideologies, and ways of life. One day I could have sworn I was born to be a trad wife, breaking bread and feeding chickens. But the next day I woke up and I could have sworn I was born to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. No husband and no kids to bother me, only boardrooms and beach vacations. One day I could have sworn that marriage was the path for me. The next day I realized my husband isn't so awesome after all, and all of a sudden, following my heart leads me right to a divorce lawyer. What I'm trying to say is that following your heart usually leads you in a bunch of conflicting directions. And when we try to find truth within ourselves, we run into 2 major problems. The first is that we end up feeling like a failure. And the second is that we constantly find ourselves changing direction. When we rely on ourselves for our identities, the changing tides of life shake our sense of security and our sense of who we are, and even the things that we live for. And that's because we were never supposed to rely on ourselves. We were never supposed to find the answers to life's biggest questions within ourselves, and certainly never supposed to figure out the direction of our lives on our own. Since the beginning of human civilization, humanity has known this. It's only in the most recent times that we've become so deeply and toxically self-reliant, enough to think that the human being is totally self-sufficient. Until the modern era, every culture and people understood that the world was mysterious, and the human life so complex that there was no way that humans could solely be in charge of our own destiny, our own moral development, and so on. Figuring that out for myself is ultimately what convinced me about Christianity. Because when I went to university, I was a total agnostic. And I started studying anthropology, where I saw that the wisdom of centuries and centuries of people said that there was something and someone bigger than me. It was when I started to realize that I asked myself, why did we demystify life so violently that life is only about self-seeking, self-pleasing, and self-assuring? And when I was first learning about Christianity, I would listen to this song, Come to the Altar, on repeat and repeat. Part of it says, have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Come to the altar where the Father's arms are open wide. I fell in love with this idea, that God was just waiting for me to realize that I didn't need to do everything on my own. In fact, I didn't need to do anything on my own. And how silly of me to think I should or that I could. Jesus himself says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. But as I told you, you have seen me and still you do not believe. When I heard that verse and I heard that song that I love, I was thinking, it's simple. Jesus is here, offering us something so needed. We're as desperate for the Lord as a thirsty person is desperate for water, and yet we choose not to drink. Why is that? That's something we have to ask ourselves. Could it really be so simple? The answer is yes. But for some reason, we build walls around our hearts. They are often walls of self-sufficiency. I think we often build them as some kind of self-protection mechanism. But we continually need to be reminded that there is wisdom outside ourselves, and we're being invited to lean in and to listen and to trust. And there's one other verse that I wanted to share with you. It comes from a letter from a prominent early follower of Jesus whose name was James. And he's writing to early Jewish Christians who themselves were wrestling with trying to figure out what's true, what's not, and is Jesus for real. So I'm going to read it right from my Bible. He writes, "Who is wise in understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. The wisdom from earth is self-seeking. It causes bitter envy and disordered practice. But the wisdom of heaven, that wisdom is pure, peace-loving, sincere, and it only causes further goodness to grow." And I'll leave that with you to consider.